funny thing, isn't it? You make it to the end of the month with tired eyes and empty pockets. And somehow, it feels like you did everything right. You worked, you paid, you waited, and still, here you are, counting coins again while the world keeps spinning, waiting for the next paycheck like a thirsty man watches the clouds, hoping for rain. But let me tell you something. Quietly, not many people ever stop to ask why. Not really. They blame the rent, the bills, the prices at the store. And they're not wrong. But they're not right either. Because the truth sits somewhere deeper, quieter, beneath the noise, beneath the receipts, beneath the endless scroll of online orders and small indulgences that felt harmless at the time. No one teaches you how to listen for it. They teach you how to earn, how to spend, how to survive, but not how to see the shape of your money, not how to feel where it's leaking, not how to notice what part of you keeps trying to fill a hole. That isn't financial at all. You want to know why you always run out of money by the end of the month? It's not because you're lazy, not because you're stupid, not even because you're poor. It's because you're unaware. There's a gap between your mind and your money. And in that gap, the month slips through. You live like a man who's walking around with a hole in his bucket, and each morning he draws from the well, and by night, it's empty again. He thinks he needs a bigger bucket. He thinks the water's not enough, but he never stops to kneel, to turn the thing over, to look for the tear that's been spilling him dry for years. The truth is, most people are not underpaid. They are over-escaped, always slipping out the side door of discomfort, buying something to feel better, clicking add to cart to feel in control, swiping a card to push the feeling away just a little longer. Money doesn't disappear, it moves. And if you don't move with it, wisely, consciously, then it will leave without saying goodbye, just like it always has, you see. The end of the month isn't the problem, it's just the moment the mirror turns toward you, and you can no longer hide behind "it'll be fine." You're forced to look, if only for a second, at how you've lived these 30 days. At what you've chased, at what you've avoided, and most won't look, not for long. They'll blame inflation, they'll blame the job, they'll blame the government, because blame feels better than reflection. Blame feels active, like you're doing something, but reflection is quiet. Reflection is uncomfortable. Reflection is where real change begins. Let me ask you something simple. Do you know where your money went last month? Not in theory, not in your head. Do you know exactly? Or did it evaporate into food deliveries, gas station snacks, streaming subscriptions, birthday gifts you couldn't afford but bought anyway because you didn't want to look poor? See? The problem isn't that the money runs out. It's that you never truly gave it a direction. You handed it over like a tired driver tossing the keys to a stranger and saying, "Just take me anywhere but here." And anywhere is expensive. Anywhere will cost you everything. Because when you don't guide your money, your feelings will, and feelings, they're not good with maps. They'll take you down winding roads of momentary comfort. They'll promise you happiness in a box, or a bottle, or a branded bag. They'll whisper, "You deserve this," but they never stay to help you pay for it later. You run out of money not because life is unfair, but because you haven't faced the part of you that fears silence, that fears not doing, not buying, not distracting. You run out of money because you spend to feel safe, to feel powerful, to feel seen, to feel like you're not falling behind in a world that moves too fast. But every month you feel behind anyway. Every month ends the same. This is not about budgeting, it's about awareness. This is not about numbers, it's about noticing, because when you finally sit with it, when you finally get quiet enough to hear the sound of your own patterns, you'll See that the problem isn't income, it's intention. You're not leaking money, you're leaking attention. And wherever your attention goes, your life quietly follows now. I won't tell you to stop spending, I'll ask you to start noticing. Noticing when you feel the urge, noticing what you're hoping the purchase will fix, noticing how often you trade peace for a temporary pleasure, and how costly that bargain becomes. The end of the month is only a mirror. It reflects everything you didn't want to see at the beginning. But that's not a curse, it's a chance if you'll stop. Just for a moment, and look, really look. You might begin to see not just where the money went, but where you've been going, too. And if you're brave enough, you might start walking a different road. But I'll tell you more about that next time. For now, just sit with this. The money doesn't vanish. It only follows the path you gave it, and that path begins inside you. So you've sat with it, or maybe you tried. Maybe you lasted a few minutes before your mind wandered back to the noise, the to-do lists, the bank app, the rising numbers on the electricity bill. That's all right. Stillness is a practice, not a performance, and most people have never been taught how to be still in the presence of their own habits. Because once you really see your money behavior laid bare in front of you, you'll come face to face with something even deeper. Your emotions. See, every dollar you spend carries something inside it. A feeling, a need, a story. You think you're buying coffee, but maybe you're really buying connection, or comfort, or control. You think you're paying for a subscription, but maybe you're paying for a little escape from a life that feels heavier than you admit. People don't just run out of money because of math. They run out because of meaning. They give meaning to money. And then they try to use money to solve things it was never designed to fix. That's how the end of the month becomes a kind of reckoning. Not just with your wallet, but with your emotions, your patterns, your unspoken wounds. You might not see it right away, but behind that random late-night food order, maybe it was loneliness. Behind that oversized shopping cart, maybe it was anger. Behind that gift you couldn't afford, maybe it was guilt. Money doesn't lie. It simply reveals the truth you've been trying to manage. Now, don't get me wrong. There's nothing wrong with enjoying things. I'm not here to tell you to cut out every joy, every treat, every pleasure. But I am asking you to see clearly, to see what you're really paying for. Because too many people are broke, not because life is too expensive, but because they've been using their money to fund their emotional survival. That's a dangerous trade, and a silent one, because on the outside, everything looks fine, but inside, there's a quiet war between how you feel and how you spend. And it's exhausting. You get to the end of the month, and it's not just your bank account that's empty, it's you. You're tired of the cycle, tired of always falling short, tired of promising yourself that next month will be different, but not knowing why it never is. And maybe no one ever told you that your spending is emotional before it's ever mathematical, that budgets won't work if your beliefs are broken, that money will always slip through your fingers if your soul is aching and you don't know how to soothe it. You see, people think money problems are just about income. But I've known rich men who were poor inside, men who made more in a month than some do in a year, and still, they were always broke, because they were chasing peace with a credit card, trying to buy rest, trying to buy self-worth, trying to buy love they never learned to give themselves. Money doesn't fix the hole. It only runs through it faster the more you earn. That's why so many people believe the lie. If I just made a little more, I'd be fine. But they get the raise, and 2 months later, the struggle returns. Because it was never just about the number. It was about the narrative. The story you carry about who you are and what you deserve. That's what writes your spending. Not the salary, not the price tags, not the bills, but the beliefs, quiet, subconscious, inherited beliefs like, I never have enough, or I better enjoy it while I can, or I don't want to be like my father, cheap and cold. These stories guide your hand. They whisper when you tap your phone to pay. They nudge you when you click buy now, and until you change the story, you'll keep replaying the ending. Broke again, frustrated again, ashamed again. So let me ask you this gently. When was the first time you felt unsafe around money? Not just broke. Unsafe, like the ground under you wasn't steady, like you had to scramble, hustle, hide, or prove your worth by what you had. Maybe you grew up watching your parents argue every payday. Maybe you learned that love was measured in gifts. Or maybe you learned that being poor meant being invisible. And so now, you spend not to impress others, but to prove to yourself that you've made it. Even if the proof comes at a cost you can't afford. This isn't about blame. It's about awareness. You can't change what you refuse to see, and you can't see what you won't sit with, so sit with it. Not just with your budget, but with your beliefs. Not just with your receipts, but with your reasons. Why did you really buy that thing? What were you really hoping it would make you feel? If you can answer that, truthfully, patiently, kindly, then something begins to shift. You stop being controlled by the end of the month, and you start taking back the wheel, not with guilt, not with punishment, but with clarity, and clarity has always been the first step toward wealth. But we'll talk more about that soon. For now, be gentle with yourself. You've been surviving. Now it's time to start seeing. There's something people don't often notice about money. It has a rhythm, not just in how it moves, but in how it meets your life. See, most people think they're just bad with money. But the truth is, they're out of sync with their own rhythm, and when you live out of rhythm, everything feels harder than it needs to be. You wake up late, you rush through your day, you spend without intention, you crash into the end of the month and wonder why you feel behind again. But it's not just about time, it's not even about effort. It's about flow, the quiet alignment between what you want, what you do, and what you value. And when that alignment is broken, your money becomes a casualty of your confusion. Let me ask you something. When do you feel most calm with money? When do you feel least tempted to spend? When do you feel most aware of what you actually need, instead of what you want in the moment? If you pay close attention, you'll see it's not random. There are patterns in your peace, but you've been moving too fast to notice them. You've been living month to month on a kind of autopilot, a script you didn't write, but have memorized all the same. Get paid, pay bills, get by, feel anxious. Spend to feel better, feel guilt, wait for next payday, and so it loops over and over. It's not just financial, it's emotional, it's behavioral, it's rhythmic. Your life plays the same tune, and your money dances to it. Whether you realize it or not, the end of the month isn't just about numbers, it's about how you move through your days, what you prioritize, what you avoid. Because if you avoid structure, your money becomes scattered. If you avoid discomfort, your money becomes a cushion. If you avoid reflection, your money becomes a cover. You use it to hide, to soothe, to distract. And it's subtle, painfully so. No one sees the chaos from the outside. You still look fine, still smile, still go to work, still pay most of the bills. But inside, you're out of step, and you can feel it. There's no peace when your actions don't match your intentions. When you say you want to save, but keep spending to cope. When you say you want freedom, but keep tying yourself to debt. When you say you want change, but keep repeating yesterday's rhythm, and you're not alone in this. Most people Live here, in this quiet misalignment, this drifting through life, hoping more money will fix what only more awareness can. You see, rhythm isn't about restriction. It's not about budgeting every breath you take. It's about bringing yourself into harmony with your time, with your values, with your needs. When you know your rhythm, you know when you're most likely to overspend. You know what triggers the impulse to buy. You know how much noise you've let into your life and how it drives your money away. Let me give you a quiet example. A young man once came to me, smart, hardworking, trying to do better. But every month he ended up in the red. No matter how much he earned, it wasn't enough. He said, "I've tried budgeting. I've tried tracking. Nothing works." So I asked him, "When do you spend the most?" He thought for a moment, then said, "After work. Usually when I'm tired. Or when I feel lonely." "Ah, there it is," I said. "Not a spending problem, a rhythm problem." His days had no rest in them, no pause, no peace. So by the time evening came, he was drained, and in that exhaustion, his money became a drug, a comfort, a signal that he still had control. But money spent from emptiness never fills you. It just deepens the hole. So we worked not on his budget, but on his rhythm. He started walking after work, turning off his phone for an hour, talking to a friend instead of ordering food online. Small things, but over time, the end of the month changed, because he changed the way he moved through his days. And the same can be true for you. Your spending isn't random, it's predictable. If you have the courage to notice your own beat, so slow down, listen for it. How does your day move? Where do you feel scattered? When do you feel tempted to spend just to feel okay? And what are you avoiding in those moments? You don't need a new paycheck, you need a new pattern, a gentler rhythm. One that honors your values, one that leaves room for rest before the burnout, for reflection before the regret. Money doesn't only live in your wallet, it lives in your habits, and habits are ruled by rhythm, and rhythm is something you can learn again. We'll talk more about that. But not all at once. Let's give it time. You've been living this way for years. You won't fix it overnight, but you can begin, right here, right now, with this gentle truth. You don't run out of money because life is cruel. You run out because you've forgotten how to move with it. You've been fighting the flow instead of finding your own. Let's keep walking. There's more I want to show you. You've come this far, still with me. That tells me something about you. You're not just curious, you're ready to see what you've avoided, ready to unlearn what never served you. Ready to stop calling this chaos normal, because that's one of the quietest traps of all, normal. What you call normal, what you call just the way it is, might be the very thing keeping you broke. You've been told it's normal to live paycheck to paycheck, normal to be stressed at the end of the month, normal to have credit card debt, normal to feel that gnawing anxiety whenever a bill comes earlier than expected. But just because something is common doesn't mean it's natural, doesn't mean it's right. And it certainly doesn't mean you have to keep living that way. See, poverty doesn't always start in your wallet. It starts in your expectations. When you've spent years seeing struggle as a rite of passage, you start to believe it's just how life works. You lower your standards so you don't have to face the pain of your reality. You stop dreaming of ease. You stop believing you could live with margin, with room to breathe, with money left over, not just in your hand, but in your spirit. I've seen it over and over. A man gets used to surviving, and somewhere along the line, he stops believing in more, not because he's given up, but because he's adapted, and human beings are good at that. We survive by normalizing pain. But here's the cost. What you normalize, you stop questioning. What you tolerate, you eventually defend. And one day, Without realizing it, you find yourself arguing for your own limitations. You say things like, money's always tight. Or, that's just how it is in this economy. Or, I wasn't born rich like some people. And while those things may feel true, they're not the whole truth. They're not the truth that will free you. They're the truth that lets you stay where you are, without guilt, but also without change. I'll tell you a story. Years ago, I knew a woman, mid-30s, 2 kids, worked 2 jobs. Every month she barely made it. Always short, always stressed. She'd say, "That's life. At least I'm surviving." But when we sat down and really looked, she wasn't just surviving. She was repeating her mother's rhythm, repeating the fear she saw growing up, repeating habits that had been passed down like hand-me-down. Clothes, she didn't know any different, because no one had ever shown her different. So we started small, not with money, but with her mindset. I asked her to stop saying, "I'm broke," and start saying, "I'm building." I asked her to stop thinking of the end of the month as a failure, and start seeing it as feedback. Within a year, she had savings, not because she made more, but because she saw more. She saw what her normal had been hiding. She saw the 1,000 small choices that kept pulling her backward. And she started making quiet, steady turns toward better. That's what I want for you. Not a miracle, not a windfall, just the awareness that you don't have to keep living the way you've been living. You can question your normal. You can stop participating in patterns that were handed to you by people who didn't know better themselves. You can stop carrying shame for systems you didn't create and start creating one of your own. But it starts with honesty, real honesty, the kind that says, maybe I've been repeating what I saw, or maybe I've mistaken survival for success, or maybe I've kept myself poor by defending a version of life that no longer fits me. That kind of honesty is rare, but it's sacred. It's where your power begins to return. And with that power, you can begin to rebuild. Not just your finances, but your identity. Because the truth is, you're not poor. You've just been taught to think like someone who always will be. You've been handed a mindset shaped by scarcity, fear, urgency, and shame. But you don't have to keep holding it. You can put it down. Not all at once, but slowly, graciously. You can start expecting more, not from the world, but from yourself. You can raise your standard for how you speak to yourself, for how you treat your money, for what you allow in your life, and you don't have to apologize for it. You don't have to explain to anyone why you want peace, why you're tired of scraping by, why you believe there must be a better way, because there is, and it begins the moment you stop calling dysfunction your normal and start calling it what it is. A season, not a sentence. Let the old rhythm fall away. Let the old story run dry. You've lived inside the problem long enough. Now it's time to live into the solution. We'll keep walking. There's more to uncover. But for now, just hold this quiet truth close. You are allowed to outgrow your old life, and you don't owe anyone an apology for wanting more. Let me ask you something. Quietly and without judgment. When was the last time you bought something? Not because you needed it, but because you were stressed, lonely, bored, or just felt like you deserved a little treat. We all do it. It's the silent drain on your finances that no budgeting app can catch, because it doesn't come from your bank account first. It comes from your emotions. This is what I call your emotional budget, and for many people, it's the biggest reason their money disappears before the month ends. 1. The unseen expenses of emotion. We like to believe we're logical creatures. We make spreadsheets, we set limits. But at the end of a hard day, it's not logic that walks you to the coffee shop or clicks buy now online. It's something deeper. a need for relief, a reward, a distraction, a moment where you feel in control, even if it's just for a minute. And those little moments, $4 here, $12 there, a takeout meal you didn't plan, a sale you couldn't resist, they don't feel like a big deal. Until you reach day 23 of the month and realize the tank is dry again. 2. Why logic fails when emotions drive. Here's the truth, my friend. You can't solve emotional spending with financial tools alone. It's like trying to mop the floor while the faucet is still running. You can cut up your credit cards. You can use cash envelopes. But if you don't address why you keep buying your way out of discomfort, you'll find new ways to leak money. Maybe it's fast food after a stressful meeting, or a new gadget to reward yourself for a hard week, or buying gifts you can't afford because you want to feel appreciated or loved. It's not that you're weak. It's that you're human. But until you bring awareness to the emotions behind your spending, the pattern will continue. 3. The budget you never wrote down. Let's imagine something for a moment. What if you actually listed out the emotional expenses you make each month? Not the groceries, not the rent, but the spending that happens when you're bored on a Friday night, you feel insecure after scrolling social media, you're overwhelmed and want something easy, you've had a bad day and want to feel treated. That's your emotional budget, and for many people, it's hundreds of dollars a month, spent unconsciously. What's dangerous is not the spending itself. It's the unawareness. When you don't see it, you can't control it. And when you can't control it, the end of the month always comes too soon. 4. The power of the pause. Here's a simple practice. Before any non-essential purchase, pause for just 10 seconds and ask yourself this: am I spending to solve a feeling? If the answer is yes, just notice it. That moment of honesty is a seed. You don't need to judge yourself. You just need to see yourself. Over time, that pause becomes a habit, and the habit becomes a shift in power. You're no longer spending from your wounds, your loneliness, or your fatigue. You're spending with your eyes open. 5. Replacing, not just removing. It's not enough to stop emotional spending. You must replace it. If shopping gives you relief, what else could? A walk, a conversation, a journal, a prayer, a deep breath, and a moment of stillness. You can't just take away the treat without offering your heart something better. Otherwise, you're just creating another form of poverty, emotional poverty. And that too leads back to financial poverty. Your mind and your money are connected. They always have been. 6. Freedom comes from knowing. When you begin to understand your emotional budget, you no longer fear the end of the month. You know where your money went, not just on paper, but in your heart. You begin to see how your money is a mirror of your fears, your needs, your desires, and your strength to rise above them. And once you see that clearly, you're no longer trapped by the same old cycle. You're free to build wealth, not just in your wallet, but in your life. Free to spend on what truly matters, and free to make the end of the month feel no different than the beginning. Because when you're finally in charge of your emotions, you're finally in charge of your money. Let me share something with you, my friend, something many people never learn, not even after decades of working hard and living paycheck to paycheck. Money is not just a tool. It's a flow. It moves, it circulates, it has a rhythm to it. And just like a river, if you block it, if you waste it, or if you ignore its current, it'll either dry up or flood your life in chaos. Most people who run out of money by the end of the month don't respect this flow. They treat money like it's A fire to put out. Oh no, the bills are due again. Instead of a garden to cultivate. Let me explain. You spend reactively, not respectfully. When you don't respect the flow of money, you end up spending it reactively. A bill arrives, boom, you pay it. A friend wants to go out, boom, you swipe your card. A little extra cash comes in, boom, you treat yourself. There's no structure, no foresight, no respect for the sequence. Money, like water, will always go to the lowest point first. Your habits, your emotions, your impulsive needs. That's why it's always gone before you realize where it went. An person who respects the flow of money tells it where to go before the month even begins. They say, you go here for rent. You go here for savings. You stay here in case of storms. And you, little portion, are free to be enjoyed. This is not controlling. This is honoring. You confuse spending power with financial power. Another reason the flow breaks. You confuse the power to spend with real financial power. Just because your bank says you still have a few hundred left doesn't mean you should spend it. That's not power. That's temptation. That's a mirage. Financial power is the ability to say no, the ability to wait, the ability to hold money and not immediately trade it for a fleeting moment. If you always spend money the moment you have it, you're not in control. The money is, and guess what? When the money knows you don't respect it, it doesn't stick around. You ignore the quiet leaks sometimes. It's not the big expenses that sink the ship. It's the quiet leaks. A coffee here, a delivery fee there, a streaming subscription you forgot to cancel, a little impulse buy on a bad day. None of them seem like much, but over time, they create a hole in the bucket you can't patch. A wise person doesn't just track what they spend. They ask why they spend. Are you buying peace? Comfort? Avoidance? Boredom? The flow of money often leaks at the emotional seams of your life. If you don't respect that connection, you'll never truly fix the problem. You see budgeting as punishment, not power. Let's talk about budgeting, shall we? Most people hate the word. They hear budget and think of restrictions, rules, shame, and sacrifice. No wonder they run from it. But budgeting isn't punishment. It's planning. It's power. It's like giving every dollar a purpose. Like telling your team, all right folks, here's the mission. Let's move. Without a budget, your money drifts lost, confused, unaccounted for. With a budget, your money works. It flows. You only respect money when it's gone. Here's a hard truth. Many people only respect money once they run out of it. They only feel the weight of what they should have done after the bill is overdue. The account is empty, or the embarrassment sets in at the checkout line. That's backward living. Real power comes when you respect money while you still have it, when you treat it with care even when there's enough, when you resist the lie that you'll start managing your money once you have more. No, you manage it now. You learn to care for $1 the same way you would care for 10,000. Because if you don't honor the flow at the small levels, it won't respect you at the big ones. Final thought for this part, my dear friend. Running out of money at the end of the month is not just a budgeting problem. It's a relationship problem. Your relationship with money is broken because it's not built on respect. It's built on reaction. But you can change that. Start seeing money not as a lifeline you keep losing grip on, but as a flow you can understand, guide, and honor. The better you respect its rhythm, the more it will return that respect to you quietly, steadily, faithfully. In the next part, we'll talk about the emotional traps that cause you to sabotage your money flow, even when you know better. Stay with me. You're closer than you think. My friend, we've talked a lot about the invisible leaks in your finances, about the emotional decisions, the untracked expenses, the habits passed down without question. But now, let's take one step deeper. Because this part isn't just about how you spend your money. It's about how you see yourself in this world. You see, there are two roles people play when it comes to money: the consumer and the creator. And most people, especially those who run out of money month after month, live their lives as consumers. They don't realize that staying stuck in that role is what keeps them broke. Let's talk about it. The consumer mindset. The consumer waits for money to arrive. Maybe from a job. Maybe from the government. Maybe from a lucky break. And when the money shows up, the consumer's job is to spend it. To buy what they want. What they think they need. What they were told they deserve. The consumer doesn't create money. They chase it. They don't build wealth. They use it up. They don't ask, how can I generate more? They ask, what can I afford right now? Now listen to me carefully. I'm not judging. Many people are stuck in the consumer mindset because they were never shown another way. Maybe you grew up in survival mode. Maybe you watched your parents spend every paycheck as soon as it came. Maybe you learned that the only way to enjoy life is to treat yourself whenever money lands in your hand. But the consumer life is a trap. It's the life of always reacting, always needing more, always wondering why there's never enough. And here's the harsh truth: consumers don't control money. Money controls them. The creator's path. Now, let's look at the creator. Creator doesn't wait for money. They generate it. They ask, what value can I bring into the world? Not what do I deserve, but what can I offer that makes life better for others? The creator sees money not as something to spend, but as something to use, to grow, to multiply. The creator doesn't just have a job. They have a mindset. One that sees every skill, every moment, every connection as a seed that could become something more. Maybe they write, or teach, or solve problems, or build things. Maybe they flip products online. Maybe they turn ideas into income. It doesn't matter the field. What matters is the identity. The creator sees themselves as a source of value. Not just a mouth to feed, but a mind that can produce. And here's the beautiful thing: money flows to value. If you want more money in your life, don't just look at your expenses. Look at what you're creating. The shift begins inside. You might be thinking, but I don't have any special skills. Let me stop you right there. Every creator starts where you are, with self-doubt, confusion, and limited resources. But the shift happens the moment you stop saying, I can't, and start asking, what if? What if you could learn something new this month? What if you could offer a small service that solves someone's problem? What if you could stop scrolling for entertainment and start searching for opportunity? It's not about changing your whole life overnight. It's about changing your posture from one of waiting and consuming to one of observing and creating. You already have something: a talent, a story, an insight, a lesson, a perspective, a willingness to show up. Start there. Build something. Offer it. Learn. Adjust. Repeat. That's how creators are born. From paycheck to profit. Let's be practical for a moment. If you rely only on your paycheck, you're living in a fixed system. No matter how hard you work, the number is capped. You can't expand beyond what someone else is willing to give you. But when you become a creator, you move into a flexible system, one where effort, learning, and value can increase your income, even If you keep your day job, you can start a side project, a service, a digital product, a tutoring gig, a YouTube channel, a handmade business. You don't need a massive audience. You just need to meet a real need, consistently. Over time, your income is no longer bound to the calendar. You're not praying for payday. You're building multiple streams that flow to you. That's the difference between always running out and eventually running over. Final thought: you'll tell you the truth. No amount of budgeting will save someone who refuses to create. Budgeting is good. Frugality is wise. But they are defensive moves. Creation is the offensive strategy, and to stop running out of money, you must stop playing defense alone. Become a creator. Shift your identity. Ask not what you can spend, but what you can build. Because when you become a source of ideas, of service, of value, money stops being your master and becomes your servant. In the next part, we'll talk about one more critical reason people run out of money. The hidden enemy that drains your income silently every month: debt. And how to finally break its grip. Stay with me. You've heard everything I've said so far about the emotional roots, the habits, the missing plan, the daily leaks, the lack of long-term vision, the unchallenged beliefs. But now we come to something even deeper, something most people avoid at all costs. The truth is, you run out of money at the end of the month, not just because of your habits, or income, or upbringing, but because you are running from yourself. Every month, when the money dries up, it's like life is trying to hold up a mirror that shows you something you don't want to face. And instead of looking, you turn away. You scroll, you binge, you joke, you blame, you borrow. Anything but stop and reflect. But I want you to sit with that for a moment. Not with shame, not with guilt, just honesty. Let me ask you this: what does money represent to you? Because for many people, money is not just a tool, it's a symbol of power, of safety, of control, of love, of self-worth. When you constantly run out of money, you're not just experiencing financial lack, you're feeling emotional lack, a deep sense of not enoughness. And that creates a pattern of self-sabotage. It's subtle, but it's there. You buy things not just to solve needs, but to escape feelings. You avoid budgeting not because it's boring, but because it forces you to look at your fears. You don't invest, not because you're unintelligent, but because you're scared of responsibility. It's not about the money. It's about what money reveals. And when you understand this, really understand this, you stop treating your financial problems like isolated events. You start seeing the thread that runs through everything. That's the real breakthrough. Now, let me tell you something that may feel uncomfortable. Most people are afraid of wealth, not consciously, but deep down, they know that having money means they can no longer blame the world. They can no longer say, if only I had more, I'd be happy. No, with wealth comes accountability, and that's terrifying, because it forces you to confront the truth. It was never about the money. It was about you. So what does this have to do with running out of money? Everything. Because until you stop running from the mirror, you'll keep running out of cash. Not because you're bad with money, but because your relationship with yourself is still fractured. You don't believe you deserve stability. You don't believe you're capable of building lasting wealth. You don't believe anyone like you can escape the cycle. But that's the lie. And life keeps presenting the same monthly lesson until you're ready to learn it. Listen, you don't need more apps. You don't need a new guru. You don't even need a higher income right away. You need a moment of silence with yourself to ask, what am I really avoiding? What part of me is trying to speak through this money pattern? And am I ready finally to stop running? The month ends. The bank account empties. The mirror is held up again. This time, I hope you'll look, not with judgment, but with the curiosity of someone finally ready to change. Now that we've peeled back the layers, the emotional roots, the blind habits, the missing plan, the self-sabotage, it's time we talk about something practical, not a trick. Not a quick fix, but a way out. A real one, because if you're tired of running out of money every month, you need more than advice. You need a shift in mindset, in method, and in meaning. Let's start with the mindset. 1. Start thinking like someone who keeps money. Not someone who earns a lot. That's different. Because plenty of high earners still live paycheck to paycheck. Someone who keeps money thinks in terms of structure. They know where every dollar is going. They don't fear the numbers, they face them. And here's the truth. What you track, you transform. So the first step? Track every dollar. For 1 month. Just one. Not to restrict yourself, not to punish yourself, but to observe. To finally see your money clearly, without fog, without emotion, because clarity is power. And without clarity, you're just guessing, hoping, reacting. That's how the cycle keeps spinning. 2. Create a first-week buffer. One of the most common reasons people run out of money is because they treat the first few days of the month like a free-for-all. They get paid, and suddenly the brain says, we're rich. So what do most people do? They overspend in the first week and spend the last 3 scrambling. Instead, create a rule for yourself. The first week is for saving and setting. Put away a portion, even if it's small. Set aside essentials. Map out fixed expenses. This way you slow down your own emotional spending reflex and build safety. 3. Build a money map. This is not a budget. This is a visual plan of your monthly flow. It should include your fixed expenses, rent, bills, loans, your flexible expenses, groceries, transport, your emotional expenses. Yes, include those. The comfort coffee, the weekend treat, your investment savings, even if it's just $5. When you see your money before it moves, you regain control. Because poor people often say, where did all my money go? But wealthy people say, I told my money where to go. That's the difference. 4. Shift from reaction to creation. Every time you get paid, don't just ask, how do I make this last? Ask, how do I multiply this? Could you use a portion to build a small skill? Could you sell something you've made? Could you start a micro business, tutoring, writing, designing, delivering, repairing? You don't have to wait until you have more money to grow more money. You grow more by treating what you have like a seed, not just a paycheck. 5. Heal your inner script. Remember earlier, we talked about the mirror? Here's where it gets practical again. Take a pen and write down every belief you've carried about money since childhood. Things like, money always runs out. I'm just not good with finances. People like me never get ahead. If I make too much, others will judge me. Then ask, who told me this? Is it true or just familiar? Now write the new truth you choose to believe. You see, beliefs are like software. If the system is old and full of bugs, no matter how fast your hardware is, it crashes. So upgrade the script. Finally, choose consistency over intensity. You don't need to be perfect. You just need to be consistent. If you save $2 every day, That's over $700 a year. If you invest a small amount monthly, it compounds. If you check your finances every Sunday for 15 minutes, you start seeing patterns. Money respects consistency, not hustle, not chaos, not luck. Consistency. So no, the answer isn't sexy. It's not some dramatic change that makes your life unrecognizably rich overnight, but it is the kind of shift that makes you powerful, month by month, year by year. You stop being surprised by the end of the month. You stop flinching at your bank balance. You stop feeling like money slips through your fingers no matter how hard you try, and instead, you start building, quietly, steadily, intentionally. The cycle breaks when you do. And my friend, you are more than capable. My dear friend, we've come a long way together, haven't we? From the first of the month, when your pockets are full and your spirit is high, to the last week when your wallet is thin and your worry thickens like clouds before a storm. We've walked through your habits, your choices, your emotions. We've uncovered the hidden scripts running quietly in the background of your life, the ones that whisper, "Spend now, think later," or "I deserve this," or "It'll be okay next month." But here's the final truth I want you to sit with, deeply and quietly. It was never just about the money. Running out of money isn't the disease, it's the symptom. The real illness is emotional, spiritual, behavioral. It's the result of a life not anchored in clarity. You see, money behaves like a mirror. It reflects your level of discipline, your level of vision, your level of emotional maturity. It's not cruel, it's not kind. It's just honest. If money keeps running away from you, ask yourself this: what is it about me that keeps pushing it away? Is it fear of responsibility? Is it the belief that more money will solve everything, so you avoid mastering what you already have? Is it the comfort of chaos? The rush you feel when you're down to the last dollar? You must understand, if nothing changes within you, then nothing will change around you. You can earn more, but still stay poor. You can save better, but still feel anxious. You can make a budget, but still sabotage yourself emotionally. We must heal the root, not just prune the leaves. So what do you do now? You don't need a miracle. You don't need a winning lottery ticket. You don't need to wait for the next paycheck. You need a quiet moment to be brutally honest with yourself. To say, "I've been here before, and I don't want to live like this anymore." Then, step by step, you make new agreements with yourself. You decide to track where every dollar goes, not to punish yourself, but to become aware. You commit to pausing before every emotional purchase, not out of fear, but out of power. You start saving not just to build wealth, but to rebuild trust with yourself. Because that's what this is really about, isn't it? Trust. Let me leave you with this. If you keep running out of money every month, that's the universe, or life, or your future self, tapping you on the shoulder. Saying, "There's a lesson here, and I won't stop teaching it until you truly learn." So learn. Take the lesson with grace, not guilt. Don't blame the world. Don't blame your boss. Don't even blame your past self. Thank the pain and grow beyond it. Because when you finally become the kind of person who can manage money wisely, you'll find that money stops disappearing so mysteriously. It stays, it grows. And more importantly, you'll never fear the end of the month again. Asterisk, asterisk. If this message touched something in you, if a light turned on, even just a little, then don't stop here. There's more to learn, more to unlearn, and a future to rebuild. In the next video, we'll talk about something most people never admit: why earning more still doesn't make you rich. I'll be here waiting, same voice, same truth. Until then, spend wisely, live fully. And don't forget, it was never just about the money.